How's it going? Dave from Comic Book Investments. Well, in today's video, we are going to look at 5 keys that have been dropping quite a bit. And you're going to be surprised at some of these keys that are on here. Now, these drops could just be the overall market correcting. It could be a speculation that didn't pan out, or it could be something that has already come and gone. So let's look at the 5 keys that have been dropping. Also, wait to the end because I like to do an update on previous ones that I've done so you can see kind of like, is it still dropping? Has it leveled off? And this one actually kind of looks like it's out of the woods of dropping. So let's go to the end. All right, first up we got Young Avengers #1. I know it's the first appearance of Kate Bishop along with a bunch of other people, and you're like, how could this be? The Hawkeye TV show is out and it's doing pretty well. Well, it's dropping, and let's see how much it is dropping. So a 9.4 in May had a peak price of $500. Now that is down to $335. That is down 33%. A 9.6 back in April peaked at $725. Now that sells for currently $455. That is down 37%. And a 9.8 back in May had a peak price of $1,595 and now sells for $1,000. That's down 37%. And if you look at the top, you can see the graph up there, how it's kind of shot right up, but now it's been slowly dropping and dropping and dropping. So this would be a good book to follow up in the future. Now, why is this probably dropping? It's because the TV, it's not that it has anything to do with the TV show being bad or good. It's just that the hype was really high for this show, and now everyone that's bought one has already got in, and now people are probably trying to unload their copy, or it's a supply and demand issue. If you go on, there's probably a ton of Young Avengers #1 on eBay, and the demand to buy one isn't there anymore because everyone that wanted one already got one. So now people are just putting up their copies and they're not selling, and that leads to more people putting up their copies. And now it's like every month that goes by, there's more and more and more up, which is supply and demand. That's what happens. Next up, we got Swamp Thing #37. This is the first appearance of Constantine. A 9.4 back in May sold for $650. Now it currently sells for $406. That's down 38%. A 9.6 back in April sold for $110. Now it currently sits at $656. That's down 35%. And a 9.8 sold for $3,500. Now one sold for $21.26. That's down 39%. And this is the direct edition, not newsstand. Anytime I do these numbers, I always try to do direct editions because newsstands, #1, they vary so much. And #2, there's not as many sales of newsstands, so it's harder to see kind of what's going on. So I always try to do the direct. Next up, we got X-Men '94. A 7.5 back in May peaked at $22.06. Now it sells for $1,100, and that is down 50%. So quite a half, wow. And then in April, a 9.0 sold for $4,500. That now sells for $22.99. That's down 49%. And a 9.4 peaked in May at $7,988. Currently sells for $5,280. That is down 34%. If you look at the top graph up there, you can see this massive spike, and then it's just dropping. Now, you're probably wondering, why is this one dropping? Well, there's a big boom in comic books starting around spring to early summer, and you can just look at that graph and you can see it goes up, comes back down. That boom has been slowly correcting itself over time. Not every book is benefiting from the boom. Some didn't really go up that much. Others are still going up, right? Even after the boom. But nonetheless, a lot of these comics, big keys, got hit really, really hard. All right, so this next one, Spider-Man, look away because this has to deal with you. So we're gonna cover his eyes. So just see this next one. This next one we got is Spider-Man 315. Venom. So it's really his first cover appearance, if I think about it, because Spider-Man 300 it's a Spider-Man swinging, and then then you got 316, which is his next big appearance. So this is kind of his, I guess, cover appearance. But anyways, this book got hit really hard. A 9.4 back in May sold for $215. Now it sells for $85. That's a 60% drop. A 9.6 back in September, so not too long ago, sold for $250 at a record price. Now currently sits at $150. That's down 40%. And then a 9.8 back in August sold for $489 at a peak price. And now it currently sells for $174. That's down 64%. Man, this book got hammered pretty bad. And one of the reasons why I got hammered, if you look at this, like that September record price was after the comic boom, and you're like, oh, why is that one so high? Well, it had a lot of hype due to Venom #2 coming out. Venom 2 comes out, and everything's just kind of dropping, right? Does it have to do with the movie being bad or good? Not really. It's just the hype for it is gone. Just remember, when you buy comics, think to yourself, are you buying into the hype or are you buying at a low? So that's what's good about this list, is you can see books where the hype has already gone away from these books. And so it might be a good time to pick up. Maybe not, oh, I need to sell and get rid of my copies. That's why I do updates. So at the end, you'll see I follow certain books, and you can see if it's going up or down, if it's leveling off, and if it's a good time to buy or not. Some of these probably are a good time to buy. All right, last one on my list. Before I do, though, if you haven't subscribed, please think about subscribing. It really helps out the channel. And go ahead and hit that like button. All right, last one. Our biggest drop on this list. It's a big one. Hawkeye #1. This, of course, is the 2017 series. A 9.4 in August sold for $110. Now sells for $51. That's down 54%. A 9.6 in July sold for $170. Now sells for $75. That's down 56%. And then a 9.8 back in June sold for $385. Now currently sits at $100. That is down 74%. And as you can see up here in the graph, it kind of peaked and it started going down, had a little bit more going up again, and it continues this to drop and drop. And I expect this book to continue to drop more. Not anything to do against the series. It's just the hype for this is gone, and this, again, is a supply and demand issue. When this book all of a sudden took off, pretty much seemingly out of nowhere, if you look back in the graph and you go back, you'll see this book wasn't really worth very much to begin with. It's not even her first appearance. All those people this book went from like a $50, maybe $100 book to, I'm talking about CGC 9.8, then went to like $300, $200, massively selling for $200 all the time. Then everyone's like, I got to get mine graded. Boom, sends it all to CGC. Takes like 3 to 6 months to get back from CGC. Throws them all up online. And now you have, again, a supply and demand issue. There's not enough demand to meet how much there is on the supply. I've seen people sell literally boxes full of this one comic book, like 25 of the same comic, just boom. So yeah, again, it's a supply and demand issue with this one. And again, with modern books, one of the hard things is there's too many that are just in super, super nice grade. So, all right, so now on to my update. This one is kind of interesting. So we're going to give you an update on Spider-Man 361, first appearance of Carnage. If you look down, you can see that this is a little different. Instead of showing peaks, I'm showing last month's average versus this month's average. So we're looking at basically November's average versus December's average. And I know that December has only been, a couple weeks in, but still gives you a good idea of what's going on because this book sells constantly. So you have a lot of data with this. It's not just like 1 or 2 sales. You're going to have hundreds of sales in this price range. All right. So if we look at it here, the good news is, so if we look right now, we got a 9.4. Last month's average sold for $209. Now it currently sells for $232. That is up 11%. So kind of is a good sign that we're out of the woods. A 9.6. Last month's average was $284, currently sits at $265 for the average. That's down 7%. And a 9.8, last month's average was $642. Now sells for about $600 on average. That's a 7%. Again, this is direct edition, not newsstand at all. But as you can see from the numbers, it looks like it's slowly dropping less because I believe the last time I did this update, it was still dropping by like 10 or 20% from month to month. This one's now, it's slowed that drop. And if you look at the graph again, up at the top, you can see that we're almost, basically there's this huge spike, you know, towards the end of 2020, and then it goes way up and it's back down, and we're almost back to exactly where it was before the huge comic boom. So interesting enough, the comic boom basically double, tripled everything in price, and now it's back down to what it should be to begin with. So I think right now, if I had to say, I would say this is a pretty good time to buy. If you're looking to buy this to put in your collection, plus it's Carnage. He's not going anywhere anytime soon. I know some things happened to him in the movie, but who cares? He will eventually be back one of these days. He's a massive, massive villain in the Spider-Man universe. So if you want to pick up a copy, pretty much now's the time. It's almost bottomed out, but I honestly don't think, like, if you waited a little bit, it's not going to spike right back up again. It'll probably level out for a long, long time and then slowly go up over time. But so good time. Anyways, hope you like this. Have a great day.